Where they're sitting?
I think so.
Or Sky?
Hello.
You can see like,
Yeah.
like
I think that's, I mean, lighting is a great, I don't have a whole lot of control over that. Years ago, people would come from All right, good morning, guys. Happy Leap Day, February 29th. This day that shouldn't exist, but does, and like everything's going on this day, and I thought nothing would be going on this day. But everyone's doing something on Leap Day to celebrate. So thank you for coming to the Leap Forward event. It's brought to you by the LWIA 23 Business Service team. And we are recording. This is, if it turns out well, we'll share it on our YouTube page, but if it doesn't, we might not. You need to go in and use your thing right there. Yeah, sorry, working out technical things. So while he's getting that done, I just want to introduce myself. If you don't know me, I think I know just about everyone here, but I'm Jamie Cordahajawi, the director for LWIA 23 at Lakeland College. And I'm part of the LWIA 23 business service team that's made up of several different partners from different agencies. But you know, first and foremost, I just want to thank you. Thank you to you all for joining us and taking the time out of your busy days to come see what we have to offer, what our partners have to offer, all the really cool resources in this area for businesses and employers. And I'm just very grateful for you to make the trip here today. Thanks. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what the LWIA 23 Business Service Team is and why we are putting on this event. As a team, we really pride ourselves on being an integrated team of workforce development partners across multiple agencies and organizations. And our mission overall is just to connect businesses with the talent that they need to thrive, not just survive. I think a lot of us get into survival mode, but we want to get to where we're thriving, right? So we serve this diverse region across 13 counties, 6,250 some square miles. And I'm not going to list all the counties to you, but imagine Moultrie County over to Edgar, down to Lawrence, then back over to Marion, and everything in between. So as a business service team, we really focus on workforce development, assisting local businesses in developing and implementing training programs for both current and potential employees. And through our programs, we offer comprehensive workforce solutions, training initiatives, and we really try to cultivate a robust workforce development ecosystem. So we're really committed to promoting long-term economic stability and growth by addressing the needs of not only businesses, but also employees and job seekers and communities at large. We continuously strive to develop ongoing strategies, new initiatives, and innovative activities tailored to our region's unique needs and opportunities. So today, the LEAP event is a platform to showcase some of the innovative workforce solutions tailored to our local employers' needs. It also provides an invaluable opportunity for employers to engage directly with our business service team. So that way we can foster collaboration and partnership. So throughout this morning's little event, you will have the chance to explore some of the programs that are available, hear from industry experts, and participate in interactive sessions designed to equip you with the tools and resources necessary for success. So before I go any further, I want to make sure that you know who is the LWIA 23 Business Service Team. So I know some of our business service team members are humble. So instead of asking you all to stand up and introduce yourselves, if you just want to give a little wave, our business service team. Yeah, awesome. Hello, welcome, thank you. And then I really want to take a moment to thank Devin Kroger. He is our new business service specialist at Lakeland for LWIA 23, and he's still pretty new in the world of WIOA. And this event would not be happening right now if it weren't for Devin keeping me on track, making sure that everything is ready to go, and with very little direction or support as so many other initiatives have been going on lately. So thank you so much, Devin, for all of your hard work and for making this possible. So with that, enough of me just rambling on, I want to introduce our very first presenters. Igniting Opportunities, a fireside chat on apprenticeships. Please welcome Leslie Tarble of Three Sisters Logistics and Bonnie Moore of Lakeland College's Center for Business and Industry. Leslie and Bonnie are going to have an organic conversation about registered apprenticeship programs, and this will be a very organic conversation, so we do encourage audience participation, questions, all the above. Ladies, I'll leave it to you.
I was kind of hoping we got rocking too.
I love that it's igniting opportunities with a fire there. Very on brand.
It makes sense now.
Yeah. We didn't really come to burn down. Yeah. We did turn the Jingle Bells music off.
Thank you for that. I am Bonnie Moore. I'm the director to the Center for Business and Industry at Lakeland College. And part of my responsibilities at the college are to oversee registered apprenticeship programs and apprentices. And Leslie, go ahead.
Yeah,
and introduce yourself.
Leslie Tarble, president and co-owner of Three Sisters Logistics. Just down the street in T-Town, you may have passed a couple of our trucks on the way in here. They stand out a little bit. Some of them are pretty purple. So, if you've had an issue with them, let me know. But we've got some really great drivers, and thanks to the apprenticeship program that we have quite a few. So yeah.
So Leslie and I started working to develop an apprenticeship program for Three Sisters Logistics about a year and 3 months ago.
Yeah.
When we started the program, and it's been very successful for Three Sisters Logistics. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that process with you today and share some information on how the program was sort of created and how it grew and how it's working now. And of course, we do allow you to ask questions through. It's not just me asking all the questions here in the fireside chat. So the first thing I wanted to ask, kind of just starting at the beginning.
Yeah.
What led you to consider apprenticeship programs for Three Sisters Logistics?
Great question. So I had been kind of made aware of apprenticeship programs in general at a previous position I had, more in the manufacturing space, with apprenticeships for individuals that were currently working at our manufacturing facility that we wanted to get additional education, maybe CNC certification, and those sorts of things, where they're an individual that's an employee and we want to retain them, not necessarily recruit, but more on a retention side. Ways to get people more skills without having a bunch of expense on their part. What happened in the trucking space? So when I then moved over to Three Sisters, I had been in the trucking industry for a while before. One of the coolest things I thought that when we bought this company was that they did a lot of training in-house to help individuals get their CDL. A change happened with the FMCSA, that's the regulation body that says, the rules for trucking space, that they now had to go to a registered trainer as opposed to an in-house trainer. One of our long-term drivers, we had to have a specific registered trainer. So from my perspective, it's like, all right, well, we can't keep training people in-house. I don't want to risk that too, because, in the trucking space, there's people love to sue, and anything I can do to keep that risk down is important to me. So I knew I wanted to go, outside to do that. Any CDL program is going to be about $5,000. It's a huge investment for individuals. So knowing that there's that barrier to entry for an industry that already has a very, very big need to bring more people into the industry, I knew it was something that we needed to partner with someone else, experts in this space, as opposed to just kind of going alone at it. So again, knew about the apprenticeship and knew about that registered apprentices could be really great. There's some grants involved, knew that, in the back of my mind, talked to Bonnie about it. And it was like, right. Working with Lakeland, really showed us the path on how to achieve that. And it's the first time I've ever been in this situation where an education area has been waiting on me to act. Like usually I feel like in the business world, like things move very quickly. And then I go over to, the education. It's like, well, we're slow moving. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot handle this. This time it was like, hey, you were supposed to review that last week. Where were you? Is this good? So they kept me on track to make sure that I could get this program then registered, and were so helpful through the whole process. So I guess big picture, right? Knew we wanted to do it, got with Lakeland. They helped hold our hand through the entire process. And there's a lot of, again, regulations, of course, when you're dealing with the government and grants and things that are available with a registered apprenticeship. They made it so easy to navigate that, get an approved apprenticeship program, and then, help us on the recruiting side too. So yeah, win-win.
You kind of answered that second question a little bit. That's okay. So Leslie's specific program, the one that met, when we do apprenticeships, typically there's a model for occupations that already exist. So we usually take a job description and then we go into the Department of Labor database and find the occupation that matches the job description the closest. Then we take that back to the employer and we go through all of the different competencies that are identified and say, does your employee need to have the skill set to do this? How about this? And then we customize that document based upon what the needs of the employer are. And then we align the curriculum that supports those skill sets with that's support the skill set. There, I finished my sentence and kept going. But we align the curriculum to the desired skill sets. And then that's really how we build the framework of the apprenticeship. This was a simpler apprenticeship, simply because we only had to look at the CDL driving program. Some of our programs do require us to do some additional training, whether they would be like OSHA 10 credentials or hazardous material certificates, which Leslie didn't have a need for at that time. But so hers was a little bit simpler on our part, and we do all of the paperwork submissions and everything to the Department of Labor and kind of do the legwork back and forth with Leslie. So I don't know if there's anything about the process there that I kind of left out. As far as setting it up, not really, but
yeah, no, I think the review, having the job description at the beginning, from the paperwork side, it was just review and adjust, right? So you're putting the framework in place for us to then just respond to that, which made it so much easier than when I don't know if anyone's gone down the path of looking into a registered apprenticeship, but there's a lot of paperwork, and it's like, fill out this whole thing. What are the competencies? And you're like, I don't know. It's just a lot. So to be able to respond to something that was already available, it just made it a lot more efficient.
Our goal is always to try to take the onus off of the business partner when we develop the apprenticeship. So using those existing documents and going through things line by line to align the curriculum to those skill sets ahead of time seems to waste.
Yeah.
It seems to keep us from wasting time and speed that process up a little bit. You did kind of allude to this in the beginning, but can you talk a little bit about how apprenticeship strategically fits into your business model?
Yeah. So driver shortage, there's been a driver shortage for, I think, ever. And a lot of times you've got companies that are throwing out really big sign-on bonuses, things to attract individuals to the industry, but really they're just moving from location to location. So one thing that I've been pretty passionate about since I started in the industry, 15 plus years ago, was to add drivers as opposed to just stealing drivers. I don't want to keep hurting the problem by, I'll throw out a sign-on bonus up there, but now you've got people, again, just moving around, and for the individual to go from job to job to job, they're losing out on pay as well. You know, they've got to sit in training, they've got to get, you know, move their stuff if they're moving across country or whatever. It's just so inefficient for the employee too. So my goal, add to the population that we can work with. I also, again, understand on a barrier to entry. I mean, $5,000 is a lot of money to just get your foot in the door. And if individuals are 18 years old before they're allowed to cross state borders, that creates a whole other issue. So a lot of people then don't go into trucking until they're 21. So then you've lost them to manufacturing. So it's like, all right, how do we have an option, especially with our business now? We're local, so we've got a lot of drivers that stay in Illinois. It's a perfect situation and training ground for individuals that are coming straight out of high school. So we started a scholarship to begin with. So it's like, all right, let's at least put a scholarship out there. And then it was like, all right, what's the next step to also help our problem on being able to recruit individuals and not just throw sign-on bonuses out there. And from a retention perspective, how do we make sure we're keeping individuals? We found that if we trained people, they were much more apt to stay with us than individuals that had been job hop to job hop to job hop. So we knew we wanted to do it. It fit in with our model perfectly, especially with the changes with FMCSA. So yeah, from our perspective, we needed drivers. And this seems like a perfect avenue for us. My goal the first year, so it would have been last year that we really had the apprenticeship program. My goal was to have 2 apprentices. We ended up with 6. So it was like, there's another, and I've got a wait list of individuals that are interested in this program. And it makes me so excited that, I mean, being a driver is a great career, and to give people kind of the foot in the door to that is just, it, you know, warms my heart. So we had, you know, I was hoping to get 2 individuals from it, ended up getting 6. We've had a couple that have graduated and all have stayed. So from my perspective, each apprenticeship program is completely different. In terms of, you know, how long you have to stay, do you have to pay it back? Do you get paid while you're in school? Those sorts of things. But from our perspective, what I thought made sense was, if I don't want people driving for us that don't want to be driving for us. So after you get your apprenticeship and you get your CDL and you start running for us, they're free to go. They've got their CDL. They don't have to graduate from an apprenticeship. I asked them to stay through the entirety of the apprenticeship, and they're paid just like any of our other new hires that have a CDL. But they've all stayed. And then even after graduating from their apprenticeship, and they've got that loyalty. So again, going back to, I needed drivers and I needed to improve retention. It was kind of a no-brainer to do an apprenticeship. And then it blew my expectations out of the water, because then we also had that relationship with Lakeland, who is getting, you know, applicants for this program, and they're looking for ways to pay for this and, you know, financial support. And it's like, hey, have you looked at Three Sisters apprenticeship program? They will pay for this whole program. So it's just been again, win-win situation, and the partnership with Lakeland has been awesome.
Thank you. One of the things that I didn't prepare for, but as we're talking through this, that sort of sparked some joy in my heart. Of course, I'm excited to see a female-owned trucking company in our area, but the diversity of the students who are coming through apprenticeships, and particularly Leslie's apprenticeship, has been really great to see. We have a wide variety of ages, and we have some females that are coming into the industry as well. So that's a testament, I think, to apprenticeships as a whole, because it does help promote diversity in businesses where there might be. And
to that point, we just had to finish our affirmative action program. So if, depending on how long your apprenticeship has been in play, how many apprentices you have, There's an affirmative action program that you have to fill out. So really it's the Department of Labor makes it, again, very easy. There's a tool that you get to use and kind of follow through, like, here are some ideas on ways you could improve diversity within your apprenticeship program. And a lot of that has to do where you're recruiting from, how you're getting the message out about the apprenticeship. So not just relying on Lakeland, right? Making sure that we're putting out on Facebook that, we're looking to hire too. So it gives you other ways to think about recruiting, which fortunately there are things that we had been already doing, but it gives you that other benefit of just having ideas on where to recruit from to make sure that you're getting everyone available, not just the people that are coming through that channel, because that's where they've always come through that channel, and people that don't know about Lakeland or haven't thought about going to college before, they might have no idea how to even start with a CDL. So this just kind of gets that opportunity out there to more people. So yeah.
And as we talked a little bit about the apprentices, have you noticed any differences between your employees who are apprentices or in an apprenticeship program versus an employee that you may have hired through a different route?
Absolutely. I'd say two things. So their desire to learn is just a little bit different. Now, everyone, especially if you're new to the industry, when you start with us, our trucking is very different than just your over-the-road dry van, long-haul trucking. We're not drop and hook dry vans. There's a lot of backing involved. There's a lot of equipment. You've got to also know the materials that you're hauling. So there's additional training that's required. What I've found with the apprentices is that they are an open book. I don't know this industry. I am interested in learning, and they just soak it all up. When we have individuals that have been drivers, they're bringing other experiences into the company, and some of them are good. Some of them are, they've got a lot of really great experience, and other, they've been over the road for their entire career and they've only drop and hook trailers. And it's like, you want to back in where? And I have to also lift the tailgate as I'm driving. How does it and well, I've been driving for, years. Of course I know how to do this. Like, no, you don't. So we definitely have, we've got a lot of people, and we're very particular. Everyone goes through at least 1 week of training, no matter if you've, been in a dump truck your entire career, or if you've never done it. You're at least going to sit with our driver and ride along for a week to understand how this works. And then you've got to also show, I know how to do this and I'm capable of doing it on my own. And again, the apprentices are just they're open books. They want to learn. They ask the questions on why. Whereas individuals that have come, so individuals that are new to their CDL, I would say are more similar in the sense that they don't have a ton of experience and they're asking a lot of questions. Experienced individuals that have started with us, they're the ones like, I've done this before. I know what's going on. And it's, we have some problems with, but yeah, they've been great. And the second one was loyalty. So again, loyalty, they're staying, they are, and I do all the recruiting for our company as well. So they've all got my cell phone number, and these are individuals that I've talked to about the apprenticeship program. So I've had a lot of touch points with them. And I always tell everyone, like, if there's a problem, I can't fix it unless I know about it. Call me, text me, write me a letter. I've had letters. It's like, I'll get in the mail, I'm like, oh, a handwritten letter. But then I get that extra touch point. And I think they just feel maybe a little bit more comfortable on asking the questions. So from a loyalty perspective, I can help them figure out what's going on. And they're giving me the chance to show that we are a company they want to work for, as opposed to, oh, this company's just here to screw me over like the last one I was at. They're giving us the opportunity to make things right, which is amazing.
What would you consider the greatest benefit to apprenticeship for you?
And Man, the greatest, there's a lot. I think the greatest is that pipeline of individuals that are interested, in working for Three Sisters, and also, not just apprentices, but also like the apprentices have now told their friends about working for Three Sisters. So it's individuals that have a CDL already, or people that are going to be graduating from high school soon. That pipeline of individuals that are coming into the company, I think we might be one of the only trucking companies in the country that has a wait list of drivers to drive for us. And that's always like, you know, the first question when I tell people, you know, what I do and I work in trucking. Oh man, how's the driver shortage? How's it going? I'm like, we have a wait list of drivers. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have, we're showing that we want to invest in our employees, in compensation, but then also in education and, you know, more things, not just the money.
I'm going to do a little shameless plug here. One of the things that we also have a wait list for our CDL program on campus, but we are developing and we are launching a dual credit CDL program this fall that will be ran through the Effingham Regional Career Academy the first semester, and then will be open for distance learning for every school in Lakeland College's district. Now, students cannot earn their CDL licensure until they're 18 years old, but our program will allow them to do quite a bit of career exploration and understand careers that are available to them if they hold a CDL. And it will also allow them to complete the first portion of the entry-level driver training, which Leslie was talking about earlier. So when those students graduate from high school or turn 18, all they will have to do is the behind the wheel portion of their training. So we will be able to bring drivers more quickly through the system, and hopefully your wait list will be able to get longer and longer as we move forward. We know that from Jamie's data, actually, that we will be needing to hire at least 1,000 drivers every single year for the next 5 years. So this driver shortage that we're experiencing now is not going away. So we're trying to work at the college to be able to fill those gaps and fill those positions as quickly as we can with qualified individuals. But having a business partner like Leslie, who's willing to do some on-the-job training, in addition to just having somebody earn a CDL, is also key to that, because that does help retain people in the industry and continue to allow those 18-year-old students potentially to get some driving experience before they turn 21, and then they can choose to stay with you, or they can choose to move into a different career. So having that partnership has been crucial for us as well on the Lakeland College side. Can you describe a little bit about how Lakeland has supported the apprentices and also you as a business partner throughout this process?
Yeah. So besides just the entire process of getting the apprenticeship registered and, you know, through all of that, the recruiting piece has been amazing. When there have been questions with the Department of Labor, like the Affirmative Action Plan, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. There's always someone I can ask. So there's a coordinator then that also keeps track of all of the paperwork and everything. I'm like, I'm supposed to have some form that I've got to enter in here. Do you have this? And so they're great in the sense that, again, it's just the paperwork and the questions. There's an expert, right? There's someone that has been through this before, and it's not me just reading a whole bunch of regulations and legal documents and understanding like 20% of it. And like, I don't know, looking up all the things. I can just pick up the phone and ask someone who's done it before. So that's been, I mean, invaluable for us in the program.
What would you say has been the most surprising thing about apprenticeship for you?
Man, most surprising, diversity would be one. I love seeing women become truck drivers. It's you know, an industry that I think a lot of women would shy away from. And we are a very safe place, I think, for women to run for. It's intimidating to, go over the road and be at truck stops on your own and all of that. And to have the opportunity to be a local trucking company where you're home every night, it just adds more flexibility. So I think the diversity and seeing that, more women are interested in this industry is awesome to see, because it is, you can, if you run for the right company, you can have a family and, still be a driver. Let's see, other surprising, how easy it's been.
That's the one that everybody
Right?
always says, not as hard as I thought it was gonna be.
Well, so I've had a lot of individuals then again in the trucking industry that have said, okay, tell me about this apprenticeship. How does it work? How did you, I'm like, seriously, just call Lakeland, start there, right? Make the call. They will hold your hand the entire time. So I mean, I definitely, it was painless. And I mentioned my experience before with an apprenticeship, different state, different school. I was the person that was like constantly following up, like, all right, where are we on this? I'd like to get this apprenticeship approved. I don't know, sometime this year, that would be great. And again, it was just like the speed and the ease to get it approved and then actually start recruiting individuals was kind of shocking.
I would also like to say, so Jamie's LWIA district doesn't just cover Lakeland College. So the other community colleges that are in LWIA 23 also offer the same services and programs inside of their colleges. So if you're a business partner that isn't in our district, don't worry, you can still do this where you're at. And Devin, in his role, is also here to assist, particularly with the setup of the apprenticeship and submitting all of that initial paperwork. Whereas our role at Lakeland is helping to work side by side with that to select the proper curriculum. But then after that's all submitted, we sort of manage the apprentices and the paperwork from our end. So it's really a true partnership, and it's available to you no matter where you're at inside of this district. So I think that's important for us to mention. The last question that I have for you before we kind of open it up to anybody else with other questions, and I think you kind of already just said this, but what advice do you have or do you have any advice for business partners that might be considering an apprenticeship program at their organization?
Yeah, if you have a recruiting need, a retention need, and you want to invest in your employees and see them as an asset to your company, I would definitely look into apprenticeship program. And again, whether that's to recruit new people or to train up individuals that are already at your company. It's a just shows that investment that you're willing to make in your people. And for us at least, if we don't have our employees, we don't have a business. There's a lot of push on customers and all that. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to bat for my drivers every day. Not that I don't love our customers, but I can get other customers, right? There's enough work out there for us. There are not enough drivers, and we've got some really great people in our I don't know. It's showing that investment in your people is so important. So my advice is invest. Yeah.
Are there questions from the audience? Jamie.
I have a question. I had a lot of questions, but then Bonnie talked about them, so now I don't have to ask them. But one thing that caught my attention is earlier, just in the hall before coming to this event, we were talking about women in non-traditional careers and how a lot of times if they get into that non-traditional career, they don't necessarily feel like they belong there because they have to order something different or separate from them. They're not like everyone else. And going through that time and time again, I don't fit the standard lab jacket, and now they have to do a special order. Like that adds up to a point where women can be dissuaded from staying into a male-dominated field, right? So besides just offering apprenticeships and being there, investing in your employees, and besides being a woman-led business, what else do you do to allow the women that you hire to feel like they truly belong in the industry?
Yeah, great question. And, yes, right. I was just actually talking to a friend about this. She's in the education space, and she's like, oh, I went to this event and I walked in and it was a room full of men and I didn't know what to do. I thought I was in the wrong spot. I was like, oh, that's funny. That's been my entire career, walking into a room full of men. I was a speaker at an event for our diesel providers, our fuel providers, and they were giving away shirts, and it said you could get an extra large, double X or triple X, and then it was like real men use diesel X, and I was like, really? Really? Like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry, we'll get you a shirt. I'm like, girls rock, man, like, come on. And I don't know if you've seen this sticker on our trailers, but we're a big thing on girls rock. We haul rock. So we think it's a fun little thing. So yeah, there's definitely part of that. And it, you gotta kind of go in with thick skin. From a woman perspective at our company though, I think having, my number, the drivers showing so much respect for me and the way that we're doing things at the company. And I'm not going to say it was an easy transition for everyone. There was a lot of like, all right, come on. What's she going to know about this industry? And I think pretty quickly when they realized that I knew what I was talking about, and was making some really big changes quickly, people started to get on board. And if they didn't get on board, some people were walked out, because I have zero tolerance for inappropriate behaviors and comments. So it's been, we've definitely had situations here or there, and I've had some difficult conversations. But just that transition that we've made now has made it a very safe spot for women, which makes me like really proud. And it's just, again, I had been very exposed to this before, and I've dealt with it, but if I can make it easier for other individuals to join and they work at a company where they don't have to battle that sort of stuff, like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I'm so happy and excited for that. So yeah, I think it's just having those tough conversations, and when things are said, it's making sure you've got someone in the company that is not afraid to step up and say, no, actually that was inappropriate and you need to not say that again, or you will not be an employee at this company anymore. So yeah, having the difficult conversations, which really, they shouldn't be difficult. Like, come on. Yeah, but it's speaking up and making sure that people know it's a safe environment.
I love that. So it really just goes to show cultivating that culture.
Yeah.
Fostering that culture.
Yep.
It really does start at the top.
Yeah.
And you have to live, eat,
Yes.
and breathe it, and not
And
just say it.
And to that point, we've got a lot of our men that are drivers that are new fathers. I mean, we've got a lot of people that are like, oh man, time off. We've got a parental leave policy now. It's not a maternity leave policy. It's a parental leave. Because they should also take on the responsibility of helping out with new kids at home. I was fortunate enough to have my husband be around to help me. C-section, couldn't walk up and down the stairs. Like, it's miserable for like 6 weeks. He was around and he was awesome. And it was so helpful and really set us up on the right path as parents and partners in this journey of parenthood that's insane.
That's a whole different event.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point on just, you know, on women, the men too, who are new fathers, allowing them to have that safe space where, you know, oh, back in my day, we never had, you know, we couldn't take leave off. What's he gonna do? What is he not gonna do when he's at home with that new baby? So giving men the opportunity to, you know, be themselves, is also, you know, important part of that process. So.
I have to say, so my son's school is building a new high school, and we've been seeing lots of Three Sisters trucks there. And finally, while I was pointing it out, yeah, Adam's shaking his head. He knows what I'm talking about. I was like, look, Three Sisters Logistics. He's like, yeah. You know, he's a 14-year-old boy, so most everything's a grunt in response these days. And we're leaving, and then one day he goes, why are all of those trucks purple? And I'm like, well, because a woman owns that trucking company. And he goes, what? And I said, a woman owns that trucking company. And he goes, really? Well, that's pretty cool. And then a few days later, he goes, look in that purple truck. I'm like, I already did, because sometimes I take pictures.
Yeah.
But Leslie, because I'm a nerd like that. He goes,
pretty.
there's a woman driving that purple truck. I go, no, that's not the owner. But it was different for him, even at 14, to be able to see and recognize that was not just because the truck was purple, but it's a different company, and it opened his mind to a different, you know, to a different way of thinking. And I appreciate that as a parent when we talk about the mess that parenthood is. You know, I appreciate that as a parent. So yeah. So yes.
I have a question. What were the challenges? You know, people come to me or to you and they say, you know, hey, I would like to be part of this apprenticeship program. In your case, you had mentioned that you do a little different driving than other companies. So in terms of, you alluded to this a little bit, but in terms of curriculum, you have to change it a little bit for each, you know, situation. And then, you know, other than like trucking, if it was something else, what are the challenges that you guys, you know, coming up with curriculum that fits more with them, or is it the standard and then you go from there? Is my, you know, because people.
I could handle the trucking piece and like what we did. So again, because like you said, we are a specific type of trucking. What we rely on Lakeland to do is give them the basics. So a lot of the education that they're getting is if they want to run, you know, across the country, drop and hook, long haul, Lakeland's not training them on our stuff. So that's where we have then individuals within the company, or our apprentices will ride along with drivers for sometimes months, depending on, you know, how they are adapting. We had some that like, they knew they had been around equipment for a long time. They just caught on very quickly. So that was that was probably a month that they were riding along before they got to ride in their own truck. And then it's a lot of following behind. But from our perspective, that's where the competencies come into play. So when we were talking before about that job description, we then set up those competencies on the things that they have to be able to do before they can, you know, graduate from the apprenticeship. We made them specific to our company and our situation. So again, they're getting part of that from Lakeland, and then we're also responsible for the next step of the competencies that they need to have to be, you know, the graduated apprentice.
And in your case, that's what was kind of required as well, to have a partner. You couldn't just train everything yourself, so you had to come up with a solution.
Correct. Yeah, this CDL part, I mean, we could have gone through the process of becoming a registered trainer. For me, as I talked about before, like it just feels like too much risk. If we have an accident and then someone says, wait, you've been training your own drivers, even though FMCSA has changed the rule a year ago, you know, what are you training them? We need to see everything. That was a risk that I would rather pay someone else to say, okay, they can drive. Now let me train you on our company, but you can drive and you can drive safely. And it's through a whole program that's established. It's, you know, a 6-week program. It's not a couple days in the truck and studying on your own for the test. They're in the classroom and doing, you know, a lot more. So that training was, yeah, for us, it's invaluable.
So every apprenticeship program has a training provider that's outside of the business partner. So that would typically be an accredited institution like a community college, but there's also a responsibility for the employer to do on-the-job training. So those are what those identified competencies are. Now, they do gain some of those competencies through our training, but the idea is that they're finished, so to speak, at the job site, whether that's in CDL or any other program. And to answer your question, you know, when you get into programs that are longer term that aren't a certificate for one licensure, so maybe you're looking at a program that would require an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, we still take that job description and we work to match it up to the curriculum or the program that already exists at the college. But sometimes, like for example, if we had a program in agriculture that had a class that focused on family farm budgeting, but the employer is not a family farm, we work with the employer and also the division chairs at the college to find an appropriate substitute course that meets that skill set better than what already exists. So there is the ability to customize and frame things around that.
Be a little flexible.
Yeah, yeah. So the last thing that we want to do is say, well, you have to take this because this is how the program exists already. If it doesn't meet the need that you have as an employee, then you know, there's not a lot of reason to take the course. So that was a very good question. Yes, Jeannie.
Bonnie, can you please speak to some of the various types of apprenticeships that you're working with at the college?
Sure. So we have several different driving apprenticeships. So Leslie's is classified as a construction driver. We do have some other programs that are more over the road. Additionally, we have several programs in manufacturing, typically around industrial maintenance technicians. There's a huge demand for those positions. And we also have an apprenticeship program with Montessori Kids Universe here in Effingham for early childhood education. So we know that some of those more in-demand careers have been the companies who are more willing to kind of dip their toe in the water, so to speak, because although apprenticeship is not a new model across the world, actually, it's newer here in the United States, or it's newer outside of a traditional labor union style of apprenticeship. So we are diversifying the programs that we offer at the college and working with business partners to help develop and support them through apprenticeships.
Real quick, our partners there at IECC, you guys have some really cool non-traditional apprenticeships. Do you want to take a second to shout them out?
We also have two that are going through our nursing program.
Nursing, yes.
Yeah. We were the first one in the state to have a nursing apprenticeship.
That is amazing. Yeah.
That is, congratulations.
Yeah.
It's very good.
How long is your wait list?
For the apprenticeship, so here's the problem. Our trucks are full. So until I have someone that leaves, I do think I want to bring on an apprentice in the next couple of months, as opposed to bring on a new hire. So that's kind of shows you where I'm leaning towards also on my recruiting. You know, I'd kind of rather invest in an apprentice than someone that's already in the industry.
It seems to be kind of like a grow your own methodology. Everything, bring them up.
Yeah.
So Bonnie, can you talk a little bit about the training facilities? Do they go to Lakeland and Neptune for this training, or do you still have a training facility here in Effingham? Or I'm interested in like the industrial maintenance.
Okay, it depends on the program. We do typically have most of our coursework available on site on campus. There are some programs that are housed at the Cluthe Center, and there are some situations where if it's not necessarily a credit bearing program or course, because there is the ability to have some flexibility around that where we may be able to come to the job site to provide some of that training as well. It really just depends on what the program itself is. Now, as we continue to grow and expand into the new Effingham Technology Center, I do think that we'll see some expansion and some additional programming available here in Effingham that is not available currently.
Any other questions? Go for it.
Do you see any changes at the state or federal level with apprenticeships?
700 pages of them. No, so there are, typically I would shy away from this conversation, but are currently proposed rules out from the Department of Labor right now, I believe until March 7th. So if you want some riveting reading, you can go on to this, or if you have questions about what is going to change with the registered apprenticeship programs, you can let me know. The main changes really are going to be involved around what paperwork is submitted, who submits the paperwork, and also there's different models for apprenticeship. So there's a time-based model and a competency-based model and a hybrid-based model. The proposed rules right now are striking anything but a hybrid model. So that means that you would have to demonstrate competency and be at an employer for a certain amount of time. There's a little bit of pushback around that. And there's also some standardization requirements that the Department of Labor is going to be putting out around every occupation. That sounds scary. And it could be, I guess, really, but realistically what it's doing is establishing a baseline for every occupation, and then the employers are able to build upon those. So the way that it is now is everyone can submit their own, what's called a work process document. But it will say, if you're going to be an industrial maintenance repairer, no matter where you're at, you have to have this base skill set, and then we can build upon that. And it creates standardization across the country because a journey worker's certificate is transferable no matter where you go or where you live. It is transitioning a bit more towards the European model of apprenticeships. And it is looking even at how we can get students involved at a younger age for career exploration and some hands-on opportunities in job sites. So maybe we're not waiting for people to be 27 or 43 or however old they are to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their life. There hasn't been any updates to apprenticeship rules in almost 20 years. So it's time. And as the programs continue to expand and grow, I do think that there's going to be some additional, I don't want to say oversight, but oversight that will be needed from a federal level to ensure that these programs stay relevant. The other piece of that is going to matter really to employers is it is going to require you to be a registered training provider under the Department of Labor, so that these fly-by-night companies that would come in and potentially try to sell you training to make a buck, but they don't have any accountability for what they're doing, they're not going to be allowed to participate in the apprenticeship space. So that way, you know, as an employer who's investing in your people, who's investing their time in apprenticeship programs, you know that you're going to get quality education that supports the skill sets that you're looking for. So there's some things we don't love about it also, but for the most part, those big regulation changes are really positive, and honestly, community colleges are poised to manage that very easily. So we like it when that happens because it's not always that way.
I mean, it sounds like what we've already been through in the trucking space with FMCSA, kind of forcing that issue.
In that, I mean, again, I'm not a huge fan on let's have more oversight, but it makes sense when you have people whose job is literally traveling state to state. You need a little standardization.
To be fair, when I started with the company, it was like, how do we train them? And they're allowed to do that? They don't have to go to school. I'm like, all right, fair, but they're getting their. Now, fortunately, we had some really great trainers. I mean, they're spending the time. It's not just like a quick thing, but there are programs that you can get your CDL in like a day and a half.
And
same. Yeah, our drivers are very safe, and there's a reason, because we invest in safety and education and training and all of that. So you just hope everyone else does it too. So I'm okay with that regulation. Yeah. It was a nice change.
Excellent. Other questions? All right, well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Bonnie. All right. So a lot of keywords jump out at me, and I don't know if that's now because my brain is tuned to look for certain keywords, but I heard several times pipeline, talent pipeline, talent, grow your own. That's all talent pipeline management. And this is a newer service that will be offered, that is offered through our business service team. We are certified to facilitate talent pipeline management strategies with sectors. So trucking sector or manufacturing sector, getting employers together to really assess your current talent pipeline, looking where your talent's coming from, looking where you're losing talent or they're leaving the area, and really trying to reinforce that local homegrown talent and ensure that we're getting those career exploration opportunities out sooner to younger people so they know of all the opportunities right here in this very area. So we are kicking that off, refreshing it this year. Our first foray back into it, because we did take a little hiatus, is our manufacturing collaborative group. Will be meeting in April and continuing through the strategies for talent pipeline management. And we certainly hope to see you guys there who are in the manufacturing realm, but we'll also have IT, healthcare, and possibly childcare coming up in the next few months as well. So when you hear talent pipeline management, or you wonder about some of the other services that we have besides just apprenticeship or grants, know that there's a lot that we can offer, and there's more coming as well. So be on the lookout for more information soon. With that, I would like to invite Amy Patrick up here. Amy is with the Small Business Development Center at Elevate, and she's going to talk to us about inclusive excellence, fostering diversity, belonging, and growth in the workplace. Come on up.
Thank you to Bonnie and Leslie. You gave me such great segues here for what we're going to talk about.
I noticed that too. Like there was
Keep going. You guys present. I won't have to. No, I really do appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and give some handouts here as we go along. And so yeah, today we're that would be awesome. I kind of got them divided a little bit. It's all the same handout. I just made it easier to section up there a little bit. But, yeah, that's what's going to do. In fact, I'm going to take one. I know what I'm talking about here. Helps if I remember. So, as I said, my name is Amy Patrick. I am with the Illinois SBDC, which is the Small Business Development Center, and we are hosted through Eastern Illinois University, and our office is located in Mattoon at the Elevate Innovation Center. If you've not been there to that center, it's located in the Cross County Mall. We're very fortunate today because we also have Michelle Brooks here. That was a surprise to me. And Michelle is actually with the SBDC through IECC. And so we've got the entire area covered here. And that's something that we haven't had in this community in quite some time. Prior to us launching both of these SBDCs, small businesses had to go to Champaign or Terre Haute or Carbondale to get the services that we offer. And so towards the end of the presentation, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But what we really do is work with small business owners in a variety of ways. And so I tell people that we work with you at any stage of your life cycle, from birth to death, which is maybe a little bit more of it on that end. But if you're needing to close your company or transition to somebody else because you're going to retire, we're here to help with that too, and then everything else in between. And so today I was asked to come and speak, and we could speak on a variety of topics. And so the one that we felt was best aligned with today's session, it has to do with fostering diversity and belonging and growth in the workplace. So a lot of times people think that SBDCs are just there to help you with your business plan if you're a startup company. And we do a lot more than that. So we can talk with you about the challenges you may have with soft skills, with hiring, with just about anything that you would need with your running your business. The graphic that I put here on this agenda that was just handed out to you, I know it's a little bit hard to read. I didn't realize that at first. I can, but you can kind of see where I adapted that from. What I really like about it, though, is that it shows how we've got this topic of, a hot topic is a lot diversity or equity or inclusion, and those can be, you could spend an entire workshop or series on any one of those. But what it all comes down to when it blends together is belonging. And I love that Leslie used the word belonging, and that came up. And I think you asked a question about belonging as well. And when we're wanting a good culture for our workplace, that's really what it comes down to, just as human beings. We all want that sense of belonging. Do I belong here? Do I feel comfortable here in my environment? And so we're going to talk today a little bit about how do we do that? How do we make our culture one that supports this sense of belonging? And we do it through a lot of these ways. So what I want you to do, the first thing that we're going to kind of do, does everybody have a pen? If you don't have a pen, there was some on the back table. If you need a pen, raise your hand. I'll bring you one. Just on the back page, on the back side of your agenda here, just draw a line straight down the middle of your page. And we're not going to overthink this assignment. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds. On the left side, just simply write out, I want you to think about the very best, do one of two ways, the very best company you've ever worked for, the very best job you've ever had, or you can think about the very best team that you've ever worked on. What I want you to listen in 60 seconds is what made it the best experience for you. Whether it was your job, the company, or your team, what is it that made it the best experience for you? Yeah, 30 seconds. No pressure. Okay. Now, if you can guess on the right side, we're going to do the opposite. Think about the worst job or the worst company or the worst team that you've ever worked on. And I'll give you 30 seconds and list what about that made it the worst experience for you. Typically, this is the easier one, unless you're Bonnie, she's positive about it. I'm gonna give you about 15 more seconds here. Okay, now let's just take 2 minutes here. Let's kind of play it out by ear. But just at your table, share your results with the people at your table. Talk about what was the best, what was the worst. But what I want you to do is circle some things, find the commonalities that you have in each of those lists. Okay, so go ahead and start with what was the best experience that you had. Talk about that with your team and figure out what the commonalities are.
That's why I'm like that over there.
My two are polar opposites. One company, best company, whatever, community CEO. So when I first started supervising trainers, when I first joined, they were my journeyman. That's probably the most least paid person. Years old, so you might have a problem. There was other development, like the other foundation, you know, where everything is just like. We're a bunch of. I probably wouldn't know. Decided to.
So that's really nice, just having that as a community.
You're having a good team.
You're like, oh, so I put it there.
I don't know. I've been the boss for so long, I don't even want to do this project.
Those were one of the best experience job I had in your careers. And one that you saw was a challenge.
Things that worked really well for me.
Let's try to pull our thoughts together and
Exactly.
But some of the things were so awful, like, as you went over, a normal person could do.
Right.
Or should we go?
30 seconds.
Much talking about your dream now, no, I hear you. You talk about me. I got a hear you.
Okay, let's try to go ahead and let's talk about it together so we can wrap up your final thoughts. Talk about it all together. Okay, let's go ahead and start talking about this together. What I want to kind of try to do, identify to the group is some of those commonalities. And so I'm just going to pick on people. So this table here, I want to start with the worst experiences so that we end in the positive note, right? What are the worst experiences? What are the commonalities that you guys shared as a group? What are some things that you saw? Lack of support. Great. What about you guys? What's something that was common?
For communication.
Poor communication. What about here? A commonality that you had?
Not a good boss or superiority complex, things like that.
Superiority complex. Okay. What about here?
Micromanagement.
Micromanagement. Here.
Lack of trust and micromanagement.
Lack of trust. Micromanagement. Here.
Bad bosses.
Bad boss. You a bad boss. What was it about in the meeting?
Oh, you really can't. Personality differences, you know, age.
Personality difference and
differences.
age difference. I love that you said that because we're going to go there today. So, yeah, all of those things are absolutely things that can make it a really bad experience. And would you all say that in those experiences, you didn't feel this inclusivity, you probably didn't feel a good sense of belonging, maybe even questioning, like, why am I here? That type of feeling. And it just sometimes you just walk into the building and it's like, oh, I can just feel the vibe and it's, you don't like that. So, okay, let's go with, what about the best experience? So, something that you all shared. Good communication. Trust. How did you get trust? How did you develop? Why did you trust?
Relationship.
Yeah.
Relationship.
You've got that good, that synergy is going. Okay, here.
Great teamwork.
Great teamwork.
They support from the team and trust, right?
Flexibility would be a job.
Love that one. I really love that one. Here,
We talked about support as a person and trust.
here.
Allowed to work as a team.
Allowed to work as a team. Oh, I like that word, allowed to work as a team. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of get to that point of trust because of that. And you respect each other. And there's also kind of this feeling of like, I'm an adult. You've asked me to do this job. Let me do the job. I don't need all of that, that overshadowing. And sometimes when we have all that, we do have that sense of belonging and that sense of feeling and just, I trust you, you trust me. And that inclusivity, those are the things that we're getting there. Now, as we said those things, all the things that we came up with, did you notice a little bit of, like, these are all feelings that we had? Every one of these in a way. Now, sometimes with the manager, we felt micromanaged, but it also goes back to a feeling that we have. And so when we talk about diversity, inclusivity, and belonging, and all of those things, it's about how we're made to feel. And so if we're an employer, how is our employee made to feel? How is our culture make people feel? You may have had it on your list, but I did not hear it. We didn't hear about training, or could I actually do the job? We didn't hear about those things. Now, some of those things can be the things that do make an experience negative. So I've had situations where I was just thrown in and said, hey, here you go. No training, no nothing, you do it. But it still came back to what happened and what trickled down from that. And I didn't have teamwork. I didn't have somebody coming alongside of me. So some of those gaps, things like that can kind of contribute to that. So, when we start to think about whether we're hiring somebody or we're working on a team or we're setting up a team together, we need to start thinking about how do we develop that? How do we start to develop that culture? And Leslie talked a whole lot about, she brings women in and she recognizes that there's a cultural difference when you start to do that. And you also have that cultural shift. Sharmila said that one of the differences she had to do with some of that diversity in age. And so then we're looking at, how do we talk? What are the things that we think about? And Leslie, I think you alluded to this a little bit about when you first took over, there was a mindset shift. And I don't remember specifically what you said, but it was, I got the impression that you also had some people in the industry who had been in the industry for a very, very, very long time, very set in their ways. And so then you may have a little bit of that age difference, the generational changes. And so I'm guessing in the difficult conversations that you have had, that you had to shift that conversation a little bit based on who you're talking to at that time. And some of those conversations that you had to have were also about, hey, this is what our culture is going to be. You recognize who you're talking to, you have to shift that conversation, right?
My favorite comment is always, make me think different.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's exactly kind of what we're hitting on here. So what we want to do, I'm going to move down into the next section here, and that's bias busters. And so we're going to continue to have some small group discussions. And I'm going to do another handout here, and I can do it. So, here for you. And the first thing is sometimes we make assumptions, right, about other people. So as we go through these, and I'll just have you hand one out to each person. I want to talk about a concept called cognitive distortions. Now, the worksheets that I'm handing out for you, they're designed more for personal development coaching, but you can apply them in the workplace, so that's why I like to use them so much. Start to take a look at these as I hand them out, and then I'll tell you how we're going to use them today. But I'm realizing that I cannot toss my hand and just read this at the same time, so I'm not that multitask. everybody have upset? So think about those teams that you've been on and whether you were the one who was made to feel like you didn't belong, or maybe it was just that there was a conflict there. You kind of start to think about is when we go into these conversations, sometimes we have some biases, just automatically going into all of that. And Leslie, like I said, you all gave me a great segue here. I was smiling at you a lot while you were talking there, because you started talking about whether you're going to hire an intern who's coming in with no preconceived notions, or you're hiring somebody who's had a lot of experience. Now, I worked in the restaurant industry for 12 years, and there was kind of a thing, and I did training and development almost my entire career now. And I would always say with waitresses, I will take a brand new waitress who's never done it any day, as opposed to a waitress who's been doing it for 20 years. Because they come in with their good habits and they come in with their bad habits. And they're set in their ways sometimes. But me making that statement is a bias. Because that means that I'm biased against who I'm going to hire automatically. And I'm going to assume that every waitress who comes in my door, if I'm still doing restaurant, every waitress comes in my door has been doing it for a long time, that nope, never mind, because they're going to come set in their ways. And that's not always the case, right? So that is in and of itself is a bias. And just human nature, we're going to be biased, but becoming more aware of those things can help us when we're looking at, the diversified thinking and the diversified personalities. The first 2 pages are front and back. And we're going to kind of take a look at that. That's just a list of different biases that we might have. Now, a lot of those examples, like I said, this is a tool predominantly geared towards personal development. So a lot of the statements that are with it kind of apply to our personal lives. But I think that you can tap into saying, well, how might I do that in the workplace? Because it's very easy to see, how we finish with that. The third page of that is just something for you to take home. We're not going to really talk about that. It just goes well with it. So what I'd like you to do, just over the next, we'll take about 4 or 5 minutes here at your table, take a look at those first 2 pages. Each of those cognitive biases there, I think there's 11 of them. I think there's more on the back page. There's 15 of them. And thank you, Michelle, for turning your page at the right time. Find one that you feel like you are guilty of. Oh, I've done this before. And maybe go back to thinking about those situations that you've had that didn't go so well. Where might I have had some bias? Or just thinking forward, where might I be guilty of some bias? And try to identify at least one that you can apply to the workplace for yourself. And then talk about it. Yeah. I know. Where they're gonna. Like to register. I am too. Because there's a lot of this here, like
It's like worse, and then. See,
I'm in your house.
We never did.
Four people just sitting it.
Yep.
This is for later, but I'm gonna go ahead and hang up because I got three of them. All right, so you've all had a chance to kind of take a look at those. You've identified some of the challenges and the difficulties that you might have. Now shift your conversation into how might I overcome that? Or if we see that within our organization, what are the strategies that we might put in place to change that, to overcome that? So shift your conversation, shift your focus a little bit to, so what do we do about it? We've identified the biases, but now what do we do? Okay. Take a couple minutes on that. So you're discussing what the biases are. Yeah. I noticed, they said here, oh, that's hard. I said, I noticed the room was a lot more quiet on this one.
And then until you rewire your brain and then stop. A little bit. It is very reminiscent of what we're talking.
Well, that's because it comes from my life coaching program. That piece does, the others do not.
I mean, we can say that in a world where sometimes you just have to say.
Yeah, you know, like. Yeah.
Today I don't do that. We have them today. About that.
Yeah, it's not even, it's not even reality. It's like, and then I keep thinking about it. All the time. Yeah, that's nice. And deal with it. It's gonna be bad.
I think it gets. I don't got, 5 hours. I sleep, really can't sleep. I know, and I left. I think that's why. About you and. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's try to wrap that up in the next minute. And this may come as a surprise to you, but then I'm gonna ask you questions.
You've come a long way. I didn't have it. Oh my God. I'm scared to ask you a question. I was. I feel like maybe I look like PTSD.
Okay, I'll take about 30 seconds.
Move on. Didn't realize it, but it does. I know that was one that
All right, go ahead and finish up your last thought. All right. finish up your last thought here, let's talk about this a little bit. So, someone said, hey, Amy, this feels a little bit like therapy. I said, yes, well, that's because these keys come from my personal life coaching program, which is not FNC, but I use them because I think that they're very, very applicable. I've used them in employee orientation in my previous life. I use them in employee orientation because like I said, they're typically looking at personal development, but who we are, doesn't that impact who we are at work, who we are in different dynamics, and things like that. So, I like them in that aspect. But let me ask you a question here. My presentation today is about diversity and inclusion and belonging. Why would we have those worksheets involved in this? How does that apply?
I would say that we're putting those preconceived notions into the selection of your suppliers, your employees, everything.
Yeah, got it. So if you've taken a peek ahead, I put some worksheets in the center of the table. That's kind of where we're gonna go in the next direction. You can, there. So you'll have three different worksheets that we're gonna shift into next, and that's exactly right. So those worksheets that we're gonna apply next is gonna look at how are we selecting our employees, how are we selecting our suppliers, and in general, just transfers over to like, how do you select any team that you're gonna work on, and how do you view that? So when I talk about cognitive biases, it's really important that we kind of start with that so that we know that we're not just making automatic assumptions that this is the person that I want to hire, this is the person that I want to work with, and then we kind of really think through that. But the other piece with it is this, and we didn't have enough time today to get into the weeds of it, but I think that all in the professional development sessions and talk about different things, we know that there's different thinking styles. People think very differently in a lot of ways. For some of you that are solely my left brainers in the room, a little bit of a challenge for me to have you start being like, well, Amy, this only talks about personal. What do you mean I need to transfer it over to work? It doesn't apply, that type of thing. You got to tap into your right side of the brain. You got to use our imagination a little bit. Some people, the left brainers, you can say, nope, give me the bottom line. This is not fun. I don't even want to talk to people. Just tell me what it is that you got to tell me, and we're just going to be done. And that's okay, because we need left brainers. I need left brainers in my life. But the right brainers are going, yes, I want to know how it makes people feel, and I want to think about all of this, and I want to envision all of this. So all of that combined, we have to think about when we're going to make a team. In my previous life, I had a business partner. She was my right brain, upper right quadrant brain thinker. So both of us would always kind of be like, oh, I got an idea, and these really big ideas. But we had to have somebody who could actually execute the idea, or it was going to go nowhere. And so what I've learned to do is I find those people that are opposite of me, and I invite them to my team. I want that outside look. I had another employer that I worked for, who's my boss at another job, and there's a lot of people that did not like him because I called him our organization's royal pain in the rear, but I absolutely adored working with him. In that particular organization, I put out training materials corporate-wide for employees, and inevitably, every single time I sent something out, he would come back and tell me immediately like why it was wrong. He'd poke all kinds of holes in it. And if I forgot one period, he's calling me up to let me know. So here's what I did is I got in the habit of sending that document to him first before I sent it to anybody else. He didn't bother me. It was, hey, if he can't find a problem with it, then I know this thing is solid. It's good. So I started getting his input. So I made that shift. Right. And then it wasn't like I didn't feel so beat down all of the time. I respected the diversity of the way that he thought. And then I also knew that I was sending out good, solid communication in that instance. But we have to respect that about each other. A lot of other team members, they just, like, oh my gosh, I can't handle it. He's always got something to say. He's always got a comment on that. But we kind of dug through that and said, well, it's valuable, you know? So these are all the things that we think of. And when we talk about diversity and when that topic comes up, a lot of times our minds instantly just go to race, culture, gender, age, those types of things when we think about diversity. But really, to me, it's about what are the differences in our personalities? What are the differences in our thinking styles? And how do we put that together to bring the best product, the best service, and the best team? All of those things that you really, really liked, those synergies that you talked about, that made such a wonderful experience. Well, how do we do that while respecting the individuality of each of the different people at the table? So that's where the cognitive biases come in, where you can kind of maybe just kind of catch yourself a little bit. Oh, am I making an assumption here? Have I really thought this through? Have I looked at this? So as we go into the next one, these next three worksheets here, and can I borrow this one? Sure. Thank you so much. You've got three here. You can use them in any order you want. I'm going to have you do this together at your table. You're going to see that you've got the one that says at the top there, employee profile. You have another one that says customer persona, like a tomato. Supplier selection. In essence, you can use each of these any way that you want. And what I'm hoping for, remember, you tap into your right brain a little bit. You can also see that you can kind of use this same process to select a team or whatever. You can use these in many different ways. You don't have to just use the worksheets just as they are. But what you can see on there, and if I take the supplier selection for one, it's got this right here where it says criteria for selection, and you've got 6 different options there, 6 different rows, but the columns are supplier 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so I'm working with a company right now that they need to hire a new marketing agency. And we might just go ahead and call up some marketing agencies and just take, all right, well, that one sounds good, and I'm gonna hire that one. But if we don't think ahead of time on what that criteria is, what is it that I'm looking for? And some of those things that you might be looking for, if we're thinking about some diversity and diversified thinking, you know, how do I get the best? Like, are they a good match for my company? Like, do they think the same way or align with my values? But also, I know that I have gaps in this area. Are they going to be able to fill those gaps for me? Because if we sit in a room with people who think only like us all the time, we don't grow and we don't have the opportunity, especially with our customers, because your customers don't think like you all of the time, right? So we want to get that good variety there, so you've got all your bases covered. So you can kind of go down through there and list that there. And so then if you're interviewing marketing agencies in this instance, you would put, you know, company A, company B, company C, and almost like your checklist to see these are the things that I want to look at. Let's think about the customers on there. It's got this worksheet here is it has things there that you can go through, and you got to think about that. What are my customers thinking? What are they feeling? What are they doing? Where are they going? And you can complete one of these for every style of customer that you have. You might have different demographics. When we start to look at this, we start to see the diversity of our customers. Oh, they may not think like me in this. They may not have the same feelings as I do about this. And it forces us, by using a decision matrix like this, it forces us to really start to look at how people think differently. And so you've got some information there that you can fill out. And the final one there, the employee profile, this is very much the same way. And you can look at this with like your existing team. So if you're not a leader and you don't have employees underneath you, but you definitely have a team that you work for, you can shift this from being an employee profile to my teammates profile. There's several ways that you can use this decision matrix. One, if you're getting ready to hire, What is it that we're looking for? And you can kind of fill that out and come up with, like, all right, this is what we think is gonna work best for our team. And so then that way you're making a great hiring decision. If you're a leader and you're guiding employees, then maybe you've got that employee that you're just not sure what to do with them. Take a step back, look at that employee, fill this out, take a look at it and go, well, what do I know about this person? What is their mindset? What knowledge do they already have? These types of things, and that can help you to really focus on who is that person as an individual. And now I need to shift my conversations based on what I know about that person. Because like I said earlier, you're not gonna have the same, you may be talking about the same topic, but you're not gonna have the same conversation with every employee, because you've got to gauge that and how you talk to them. The other way that I think that you can use this one is if you're working in a team, or maybe it's a customer, but you're just not getting along for whatever reason. They're not picking up what you're putting down, right? You can start to take this and just go back and go, all right, what do I know? What do I need to know? And then from there, you can start to make some decisions on how you interact with them, how you communicate with them. Okay. So for the last 5 minutes here, I'd like you to just, as a group, feel free to start filling them out if you want to, but what I'd really like you to do as a group is talk about the 3 different decision matrices, and how do you think, because I want you to leave with somewhat of an action plan. How do you think you might use what you've learned in this short 45 minutes? How might you use these worksheets? How are you going to take them back in and implement them in some way? How might they benefit you? So have those discussions for about 5 minutes, and then we'll kind of wrap up. Okay?
Get them to the table and then help lead them and facilitate that. Supposed to lead us. Yes. She's helping me. You know, you better listen. You need to make the church. And we have it. Yeah. My brain's going.
No, man.
Maybe.
No, I'm in Springfield. I'm in that governor academy of leadership thing. Oh, yeah. I'm trying to learn all the fancy stuff.
To be a run like. April is.
Well, let me ask you, what is your?
We have to have like at least 3 of the team who have like
You know what, you got 50, that's cool.
we already have manufacturing going, we already have.
But did you ever get in that part where IT to really consider it collaborative?
Well, now that I actually have.
But I think you're trying to push us past in this.
It's a year in it, like things been asking me where, but it's not just me.
Right, that's the manufacturing one, but the others,
I think
it's,
we gotta start.
right, start, but don't expect it to be an actual clear collaborative. You might just have 1 or 2 employers in that industry working through APM and be okay with that, because that might be where we're at.
Just get them together for conversation, we can easily do that by the end. I'm prepared for this, getting this together. We don't want to insert it, because I don't think that we'll get to demand. And that person initial gift thing.
Let's make that.
Yes, for healthcare, and maintain that is both. My one going. So the idea was. April, manufacturing, May.
But, you know,
Probably May, they used to get together, they would give us the June to get the buy-in and marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Give us a gift. Yeah, I didn't think of it.
Yeah.
I do. And we will not, I am really, we will not get too strategy, maybe we'll be right.
No.
Healthcare is our most promising because there's stuff already in there that we know of, we just gotta get it all worked.
We're gonna get the strategy briefly. But I think it's gonna be, like, we're gonna get stuff. And that's what I think that. People like that. The team is gonna fall very.
Right, and that's the thing, it's supposed to be a long, drawn out. All the way down to the gap 12. And that's gonna take a while to get that going.
But for them teaching, that's what they did on the engineering. I think because you have this. You sent message that I like, he was gonna wear something.
We just gotta work with them to figure out the solution. And they've got to be the ones coming up with the solution. That's the way they do it.
Okay. Go ahead and wrap up those final thoughts here. We'll do a little bit of a report out and then kind of talk about where we go from here. So I want to make sure that today is value added. Topics like diversity and all of that, you could do an entire college course on, right? So we're not going to solve the world's problems today. And I just wanted to get a high level introduction into some of these. Now, some of this kind of can blend into conflict management, can blend into communication styles. There's lots and lots of ways to use this. But when I think about diversity, I think about a lot of the things that do cause conflict is that we just don't always understand different thinking styles and different ways of doing things. And cultural diversity will come into that. Gender diversity will come into that. Age diversity will come into that. And why is that? It's because all of our life experiences are different. Now, I'm a 46-year-old white female. I could stand next to another 46-year-old white female, and guess what? We're different. There's diversity there. We have different life circumstances. And so we have to look at all of these different concepts that we talked about today. And so that's why I went the direction that I did with today's workshop. So I'm going to put each one of you on the spot. Sorry, not sorry. But what I would like you to do, we're just going to go around the room in just a simple statement on what's one thing that you're going to take away from this session, what's one value added thing that you'll take away from today. And maybe you'll give somebody else another idea. And I'm going to start right here with Devin, who is the one who asked me and made me come today and speak.
I think out of all this, just expanding my own knowledge on, I think a lot of times we focus what we think diversity is, and expanding that to realize that there's many more components involved with diversity.
Good, thank you.
I thought it was gonna be one per table, so I turned my brain off.
Each one of you.
Turned off.
I've sat through a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings, and to hear you really talk about belonging, I think has been something that's only started to come up recently. We have focused so much on diversity, and it's been that diversity that we can see with our eyes and not considering all the other levels of diversity, but then taking that next step and how do we appreciate that and use that to make people belong?
Yeah.
I think especially in my realm and in this area, We're just now getting to that point, so I love that it is, you're here and you're talking about it and it's coming to the forefront, and that it fits so nicely with what Leslie was talking about and just how it's organic and natural. If we're just now taking a framework or a microscope to it to really look and see, how is this beneficial to business, to what we do every day? It's, I took a lot away, I guess. but
Good, and I will, admittedly, it's not my framework. In fact, I just in my research, I came across this particular one. And so up until now, the acronym had been DEI, but there's a B that has the belonging has been added on. And so it's kind of an addition to that, which it's a great thing. And I think that, yeah, when I saw that, but oh yeah, this is it. It captures it. So thank you.
I think my main thing is that, sometimes you just need to take a step back from what your initial reaction would be and sort of reevaluate the situation, because it might not, you might be like me, I blow things out of proportion. So if I were to take a step back and sort of reevaluate that, it might not be as bad, but I think that definitely a lot of information.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like what she said.
Uh-huh. What's your value takeaway though?
Oh, I'm gonna go with that.
That's all I'm gonna get from you?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I think I took the different challenges with the cognitive distortions. When you think about what your mind immediately goes to, someone else's could be going to theirs. So you need to step back and think, okay, are they struggling with how they're thinking? And how can you both step out of that and get to the same place?
Yeah, it's hard.
Kind of the same thing, because I've got a whole situation going on at my restaurant right now in the back end of my house, and you have a whole lot of different personalities back there, but I've got one right now that is just wreaking havoc.
How might you use one of those tools to help you with that situation?
Well, I was thinking about that whenever I was going into this employee profile here about all of the things going on here.
How might that shape your conversation that you need to have with that person?
Well, because I don't know that it's everything going on at work. And I guess it's a matter of diving down into finding out the source of irritation. What's happening in your life that's causing this job to be so unbearable?
Right.
So
when you go to approach that person, and have that conversation, so will that help you with, because there's some people where you can go, all right, man, what's the problem? And out with it, or you might have to approach it in a much different way, say it a much different way, because everybody's different how they're gonna handle that, and so.
and there's
just looking
very
through that.
introverted.
Okay.
So
Introverted, extroverted. Diversity.
well,
right?
and this is this situation too. I could talk to him face to face, and I'll get one answer, and then I'll go look at Facebook and I'll see a whole lot of different.
Right, and so you may have to address, how do you say that head on? All right, are we good? Am I gonna see this out on Facebook later on? That, and so just kind of getting down to the
Yeah,
root of
so
that.
how can I help you? I can't change anything if all I see is anger and irritation coming out on Facebook when you're telling me that, actions aren't lining up with reactions.
And so the other thing, like what Michelle's talking about here, she's got a really
You done
challenging
online.
situation.
Yeah.
So not only by looking at
Yeah,
who the
online.
employee is, will that shape how she has that conversation? But the other piece of it is, you might look at what is the action or what is the behavior that you need to have by going through, okay, this is what my model employee would look like. And so then you can also use that to shape that conversation of, here's what I need from you. How do we get to that point? And so sometimes it's not about having that conversation with, this is what you're doing wrong. It's about, this is what I need. How do we get there? And so you're almost giving them a goal to work towards rather than just shaming what they're doing wrong, which we have to deal with bad behavior. We have to deal with it, but it could help you do that. And so you might just need to kind of figure out, what is it that you need? What does your model employee look like for that role? And where are those gaps? And then have that conversation in that way. So I don't know if it'll help or not in that particular situation, but it hopefully maybe can. Sharmila, what's the value that you took away today?
I think you can use these 3 forms that you provided to build a better team.
Absolutely. Helps us to think about that ahead of time. Yes. We got 1 minute. Okay. Something value at this table.
I think I need to be more open-minded.
More open-minded, good. And so for a long time, the terms were open-minded and closed-minded, and now the term is growth-minded. And growth-minded means that we're taking a moment to come out of our comfort zone. And the brain, from a neuroscience standpoint, the brain literally grows. It produces more, new neural pathways every single time you learn something new. And that includes coming out of our comfort zone and making mistakes. And your brain will actually build new neural pathways by doing that. And so
It's gonna be a work in progress.
it's okay. You know what? Your brain, all the way up until we literally the brain shuts off for good. It can create new neural pathways. It's a great way to do it. Okay, here, what's one value added?
Temper personal biases, temper preconceived notions.
Temper your preconceived notions and your personal biases. Very good. What about here? What's one three values you can talk about?
I'm gonna use the employee profile future career path as part of my strategic planning.
Oh, okay.
For my team.
I love it. Adding some of that into your strategic planning. And here, what's one key value?
I think for me, it's just challenging the biases because I think we're all guilty of that.
Are we?
Yeah, and I think, you know.
I do it every single day. My husband does it really bad. I'm always telling him, that's a cognitive bias. He says, oh, you and your life coaching, he said. So, all right, I apologize. It took more time than I should have. And everybody, well, if you didn't know me before, you know me now, and I talk a lot. So, your agenda sheets there that you have at the very bottom, it does tell you how to get in contact with us. And we do work with all small businesses. The 3 worksheets that I handed out there at the end today, I have access to over 150 of those. And we work on a model, it's called the growth wheel, that looks at 21 different areas of your business. It covers everything that you do in business. And so we can help you, guide you through making some of the decisions in any of those areas. So just get a hold of us and we're happy to help you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that was really good. We didn't want to stop you. We let you go through the intermission time because this was so valuable. There was really great information.
I'm glad you did.
Like I do. We need you for a whole day is what it is. So what we're gonna do, there are snacks in the back, but we do have this room until 12:30, so we'll have plenty of time for networking after our final presentation. So if you want to grab a snack, go for it, or if you want to hold out till networking time, that's okay too. So with that, I would like to invite.
Could we have a brief intermission?
Do we need a few minutes? Okay, that's fine, yes. 5 minutes, brief break, and then we'll get back to it. How about that?
Nice.
Yeah, straight down and it's like.
It's easy to miss, okay?
I'm glad that you said something because I hadn't.
Yeah, please do. I'll be right by you. You know, when you might be available.
This is only our second year. So we'll do another one. Maybe can I do one in the summer? Okay, I'm sure you'll leave. We'll eventually get there. Okay.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Let me do that talk. No problem. It wasn't necessarily, it was her making a joke. Like I said, this is my real house.
I wish that. And I think Shane was around it, we talked a little time about knowing that we've got sort of.
I guess I could do that.
Paths from the state, you know, people could do.
You'll probably be with the women thing, and otherwise I'm really not.
But otherwise. That's the part. Why am I so right? Okay, so what I'm noticing is we're in the next.
If I want to go in and.
Yes, yes.
We'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's worried about the house. It's my daughter, Lizard.
I mean, and you're.
And it's gonna be nice and slow, so I'm gonna stand here with one.
Just for a recording now. Okay.
Spirited direction.
And somebody else.
You just wanna play with one? Normally, she's not super active, but the information. Getting about her. Yeah, she eats, give her some green leafy stuff in the morning, like kale and cilantro and stuff. And then when they're smaller, they eat insects in the evening. Now, it's like. I only got her out because she was digging up the side of the cage the other day. It was bugging the crap out of me, so I let her out and she's screaming about the house. A couple hours, she went to archery practice. Went to pick up play, that's what I was on.
They're all expensive.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, right. Well, I was invited to bring her with today, but I didn't have a so.
Did, I guess, Tim, he's gonna be the guest an honor. And he's like, wow. I think he was scared that she would take the attention of it.
Yeah, that's right. No lizard friendly.
Is it recording for this? Even if it doesn't get published, then I get a copy of it. Hopefully that works. I may say it's still recording. I think this time would be very. I'd like to show. Yeah, then send the link.
That someday, we are at Elementary Square. No. I don't know what time you're doing.
The only big slides for, right? That's what I thought.
I'll just make her stand here.
I'll just stand right tall.
All right. Thank you guys for coming back. I appreciate it. We got one more and then we will have a networking time. And this one is, I was looking forward to all of them, but I know several times as we've had events and discussions, us business service team people keep saying, we need to get Stevens, we need to talk to Stevens, have them come and talk to other business partners. So I'm excited that this is finally happening. So please welcome Rachel to talk about the Top Mate program at Stevens Industries.
Thank you. I'm Rachel Collins. I'm the HR director at Stevens Industries. When I took this role at the height of COVID in 2020, I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would join a company that wanted to build a childcare. But I did know that the president of the company had a vision to be the premier employer in the Effingham County area region. And so that obviously, for those of you in HR, you can imagine how that appealed to me, right? So if you want to switch the slide. Mine is very informal, by the way. This was the last minute type thing. Do we know how to switch it?
Yeah, it's just, there, it takes a second for it to pop up.
What? Perfect. Just to give you a background for those of you that don't know what Stevens Industries in, we are in Effingham County, just down the road into Topless, Illinois. We have the All-American Success Story, founded in a garage in 1956. And we have grown to, gosh, 3 facilities, almost 20 acres under roof, 545 employees and growing. And I don't think people realize how big of a company we are in terms of our footprint in the world. Gosh, we have about 60 million that flows through as in supplies and materials that flow through Little Old to Topless. We have award-winning products. We're the largest commercial cabinetry and architectural millwork company in the United States. And we have a lot of specialty brands, including Top Mate, which is a childcare furniture line. So the interesting thing is in 2021, I was at the executive team table and our president, we were talking about how we were going to be building a distribution center. And at that time too, we were struggling to find employees. Sarah, who is our HR generalist and recruiter, she came on about a month after I did. And I was telling the table at that point in time, we had over 100 job openings that we had to fill. And it was very, very difficult for those of you, well, you probably all remember that, right? Workers were incredibly hard to come by at that point too. So we were brainstorming, what can make us stand out as the employer of choice? So a couple things came to mind. One, we wanted to see if we were manufacturing, could we go to 4-day work weeks where we work Monday through Thursday and they have every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. So we were looking at that as a potential. And then Todd Wegman, our president, said, well, since we're building the distribution center, would our employees be interested in a childcare? And I was stunned. I thought, yes, we had a lot of people that couldn't come to work because of babysitter issues. People that maybe couldn't take the job because going to 410s meant they had to work 10.5-hour days. And a lot of the childcare, in-home and centers didn't operate for that long of a period of time. So with the executive team support, we launched a survey to all of our employees, basically saying, hey, what do you guys think? How would this benefit you personally? And if it wouldn't benefit you personally, would you support this? And overwhelmingly, the answer was absolutely, please do it. I wish I had this opportunity when I had kids that were younger. The ones that had kids that were younger, very, very interested. So it was like maybe 2 people said no. And one of the funniest ones was when we opened it and it said, what the hell does Stevens know about running a childcare? And yeah, that's a very fair question because we do nothing about running a childcare. Just because we build childcare furniture means nothing. But we are family oriented and we wanted to help our employees first and foremost. So if you want to switch the slide. So I kind of talked about that. We toured the AgriFab. Those of you guys that are familiar with AgriFab, they've had a childcare since the 1980s, an employee childcare. And so we went up there and talked to all of them and how did it go? And Mike Cohen, the president, very kind man, if you know Mike, he was wanting us to make sure that we were doing it for the right reasons. Because you're not gonna make money doing it. You're probably gonna lose some money. But what you gain, you know, how do you measure that, right? Because you gain loyalty, you gain attraction of top-notch employees. So knowing that we would probably lose money and a considerable amount initially, we still took the plunge. You want to switch it? And it became TopMate Central. So I wanted to share kind of the name because a lot of people aren't familiar. Obviously TopMate, right? It's our furniture line, childcare furniture line. A lot of people in this area don't know that, but nationwide, I think in all childcare centers, they know what this furniture line is. But we called it TopMate Central and it has a train theme because Tom Wegman, who came on board with Stevens in the early 70s, at that point in time, Chuck Stevens had 11 employees. Tom had the vision as a mechanical engineer grad from Rose-Hulman to automate and to bring it into the commercial market. And because of Tom's vision and Chuck saying, let's do it, that's how Stevens really grew to what we are today. So Tom Wegman, kind of the silent person behind the growth of Stevens, he's a big train buff. So hence TopMate Central. So here we have the childcare and back there's the distribution center and it's quite large. The distribution center goes all the way back to the south there. So we hired a childcare director because again, we don't know anything about operating a childcare. And we hired staff and we opened our doors in October 2022. So since then, we had a lot of people from the general community reaching out. Such a need here, as you guys know, for childcare. And they wanted to know how they can get in. And you have to become an employee of Stevens, okay? But as time went on, Unit 50 approached us. We thought, yeah, you know what, we can do a partnership. So we have now partnered with Unit 50 to Topless Unit 50, which is our neighbor, TopMate Central's neighbor, Seymour Milling, JB Esker, and a couple other companies as well, where essentially Stevens, we bill the company, they deduct the childcare costs from their employee's paycheck. Okay, and they can give them the discounted rate or not. We give our employees a very significant discount, but they do have to pay for it. We need to make it fair for all employees, and we do need to at least recoup some of the cost of operating it. But because we partnered, we are recouping a little bit more of the cost. And we discovered a Smart Start grant. So I will tell you, one of the cons of building this program was when we started, I remember telling Todd, I'm confident there are so many grants, like childcare is such a huge need. We can probably build this for free because there's so many grants out there for it. That was wrong. I couldn't believe how there was nothing for a company to do this. We still did it. We are employee owned 100%. We can't get tax credits. So one of the things that I hope down the road that can happen to incentivize more employers to do this is for there to be more grants in not only building a program, but also in being able to keep it going. Because it's not been easy. But that might be the last slide, I don't know. Oh, there we go. Sorry, again, this is the last minute. Obviously, that's our goals and objectives, and it's morphed into so much more. We've really had some loyalty built from this, okay? Because if you're looking for a transient job or you're just gonna work there for a little while and then you're somebody that gets frustrated or points out from attendance and goes to the next job, you're probably not gonna put your kids in that childcare, right? Because you're gonna have to pull them right back out. So we are attracting good candidates because of this reason and because of the full day work week. And we are able to, they don't wanna leave the company. We opened it up to grandparents for their grandkids to be able to come in if they're an employee. So it is pretty affordable. We know the rates of the other childcare centers in the area. We make it very affordable for our employees. We did do something where it's the higher earners that make 70,000 or more, they do pay a little bit more than the others. That's kind of our cutoff, but not much more. So it's quite the value, and we have a great program. I don't know if there's anything else. That might be it. sorry. We have 52 children in it now. We're holding spots for 5 more. So when we opened this, we had 98, capacity for 98. Again, thinking we could grow to that amount, and we could. We absolutely can get there. But the Smart Start grant came on the scene. And they said you have to have 10% be what we call Project Child. Okay, and our employees, we pay above average for manufacturing in our area for the positions they're doing. So we thought, oh, that's not gonna happen, but then you do have, sometimes you have those couples that aren't married, and so one of the parents could qualify for this. So we did have, can't remember how many, six people at the time on Project Child, which meant we had to have 10% on Project Child. We made the decision to cap the program at 60 in order to take advantage of some of those grants. Okay, because again, we really operating in the red, and it helps us out a little bit. And the reality is it keeps the program more sustainable for our childcare staff and directors, okay? Because growing to 98, that's a really big childcare center. And it's hard to keep the quality of care the bigger and bigger you get, right? We feel Stevens is a bigger company for the area anyway. We have that very family-oriented feel, and we wanted to keep that for the childcare as well. So we've since capped it at 60. And even if the grant goes away, we may still keep it there because it's a nice number. We have every classroom full but one, and that's okay with us. You know, that's a good place to go for some time for the staff. 17 staff members, full and part-time, and we are almost able to qualify for the Accelerate Illinois Silver Circle of Quality status, which is a benchmark in the childcare industry. So it's very, very exciting. One of the challenges we've had, so I'm very interested, Bonnie, in the apprenticeship program that you've developed for Montessori, because we thought we could hire the high school kids to come over and help just because they wanted to go into childcare or education. Yeah, we really didn't know what we were talking about, because you have to have a high school diploma just to be able to come into this. And so therefore we can't access the high school kid population. And I really would like to see if we could. Do you know if your apprenticeship allows under age 18 or without a diploma?
You can do youth apprenticeship.
So there is an avenue?
I'm not 100% sure on the high school diploma, but I can find out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd really like to figure out how we can make that work, where we can start to get kids in sooner to help us out. Even if they just come in to play with the kids part of the time, you know, that helps take some of the stress off the teachers. So I've been in HR since 1997. And for those of you in HR, you can imagine, you know how that goes, right? You've got your ups and downs, but it's never, you can't say it's not stressful, right? Well, I could never be a child care director. I don't know how they do it. I mean, I remember when our director was building the parent handbook, and she had to, there's like 2 pages on the biting policy. I'm like, oh my gosh. We don't have to deal with employees biting each other. So it was all very, very interesting. So, but we're so proud of what we've done. So that's really my presentation. I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything. Yes.
I do have a question. So when you first opened, let me ask this first. How many employees did you say you had?
Right now we have 17.
No, I'm sorry, I meant within Stevens.
But about 545 now, but
Okay,
growing.
so when you first opened, at what point did you decide, hey, let's do a partnership and share some of those available spots with the school system instead of only reserving them for your company? Did you actually not have very many employees?
We had less than we thought, and this is why. So basically we waited a year, and we'd been approached so many times. And so I talked to Todd, our president, and we made the decision together to wait 1 full year from opening. So October 2023, to find out how we want to do this going forward. If we wanted to partner and reach out to those companies that have reached out to us. And we didn't have as many as we had initially thought we would, based on the interest from the survey and the employee population. And, you know, we had access to some of the data too, with how many dependents were on the child on the health plan. So we knew we were we weren't getting as many as we had. But part of that was we can only bus back and forth into the T-Town School District, okay? Our employees come from 56 different zip codes. So they probably have their childcare closer to where they live, if that makes sense, not necessarily right into Topless. So, and they probably already have, right, established childcare, a lot of them, and they weren't gonna pull them out for this. So I would say we didn't have as many employees come over to the childcare as what we initially thought. I think we had about 30 right away, and then we gradually added people as they started to apply to the childcare or to Stevens to get into the childcare. We still get a lot of interest.
Do you find now that as people are applying for jobs to work for Stevens and they say, oh, I'm applying because I need to be able to utilize your childcare?
Absolutely.
Do you have to turn them away and say, sorry, we're full?
Yes, yes. But we also cap the partnership, right? So we do have 5 openings and we're not opening it up to those companies right now.
So you just give them a percentage of your.
Right. And we're losing 2 more because they're moving. So 2 of the kids, the family's moving. And so we'll have 7. So, yeah. So we're not going to jump. That Todd stressed to me was if we do partner with other companies for this, you cannot have to turn current employees away because a partner company is filling the spot. So we're keeping a cushion there for our current employees. So, and we can expand, right? Like we can go above 60. It's just been something where since we have that opportunity to get that grant, I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. It's about 33,000 every quarter. So it does help offset a lot of the costs. So, and that's the only grant we've really been able to find. There's a couple little grants here and there. So.
And is it paying for itself when it comes to staffing the facility and all the needs?
No. But because of that Smart Start grant, we're not operating as much in the red. I mean, we honestly don't know how the childcare centers do it. You know, people complain that Montessori's prices are so high, or they have to be. I mean, you can't make it. I don't know how they're gonna stay in business unless some more aid comes through to help them out. Like not Montessori specifically, but just childcare centers in general. So DCFS is so strict too with the regulations. We had no idea. But as a mom, you know, my kids are older now though, I do appreciate that, you know, like I don't look at it as a burden, but rather, you know, thank God they do check that stuff out because we want to keep our kids safe.
So as a mom, because one of the biggest stressors is daycare, but I don't have any kids at home enough, but one of the biggest things I find with my employees is sick kids.
Yes.
So do you have a sick room or do they have to not come?
We're talking about that, okay? Because we have that spare room. So but you have to have staff in that room, right?
I didn't know if you had like a facility nurse that,
Well,
you know.
We do actually have an on-site clinic and we have a nurse that comes 2 different days now. But not necessarily an on-site nurse. But yeah, we have the ability to have a sick room, but it also depends on what they have, right? So, yeah, but we do have that ability. So we still have that issue if your kid is sick above a certain temperature or something else, gastrointestinal, the parent does have to come, or the other parent that doesn't work there has to come, or the grandparents, you know, so it's still important that they have a backup, but
what's kind of nice though, is if they're working at that facility, like on their lunch hour or whatever, they can actually come and
if they can, if they want to,
yeah.
they definitely can. I mean, it just depends, like if you're the kid that doesn't, you know, I had a kid that would have clung to my leg, so. But I get to go over there when I'm stressed, you know, HR people, I'm sorry, this might be inappropriate, but we drink usually for a reason, right? But now I can go over there and rock the babies and that takes away some stress too, so. But yes, they can go over there and see their babies if they want to, yeah.
Other than anticipating being able to leverage high school students to help out, what other staffing issues, if any, have you run into with trying to make sure that you have enough staff or long-term staff there at the childhood center that differs maybe from other parts of your business?
Sure, it is a unique challenge. It does primarily attract women. And we have had some interpersonal situations there. We do have most of the staff that we started with, almost all we've been able to retain. But then since then we've hired some in that maybe didn't fit the mold of that particular team. And so they ended up leaving on their own accord. And so it's those kind of challenges that all of us in HR have to be faced with daily. I think also the pay for the child, we pay above average for childcare assistants and teachers, but it's still not a very high paying job. Okay, and as much as I'd love to pay a lot more, we still have a budget, right? You know, we can't, you know, we already aren't breaking even completely. So we have to be careful with that too. The good news is that we do attract people to it because they have all of the Stevens benefits. They have the Stevens employee stock ownership plan that they get into. So a lot of childcares can't provide those kind of benefits. In fact, they're all getting a profit sharing bonus Friday. If they've been hired since early 23 and on because of our financial results from 2023. And, you know, they didn't help with the manufacturing process, but they did help by taking care of those employees' children. So they're part of that bonus program. So that's helped us recruit. We have better luck than most childcare centers recruiting. So yeah, still has its challenges though. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you guys. I'm sorry for my little presentation there that I didn't.
No apologies needed, Rachel. That was amazing. That was great. I've learned a lot, and just a huge shout out to all of our presenters today. I've learned something new, and I've interacted with a lot of them before or continuously all the time. And it's like every time we get together and we have this opportunity to share what we're doing, new things pop up that I didn't realize before. So, but admittedly, I'm a workforce development nerd. Maybe you guys don't get quite as excited as I do, but there's just really great things going on in the region, and there's potential for us to do so much more if we are able to, you know, get past some of our obstacles of geographic location, lack of resources. How can we work together to bring more opportunities and more support to the region? And I think this is a good start, and I love the conversations that we have, and I hope to continue these on and have more so that we're able to bring more value, more quality of life to the people in this area. So again, thank you all very much. And thank you to just our attendees for being here and spending time with us today. I appreciate it. And then, of course, I just always want to thank our business service team for making sure that this event could happen and that we are all working so hard together to try to bring that value, that quality of life to the region. And of course, again, Devin, thank you so much for coordinating the event, your attention to detail, the dedication, and just your initiative has shown through today, and I appreciate it very much. So before wrapping up, I just want to encourage you all on the back of your handy dandy little program booklets, there's a QR code for a satisfaction survey. It should take like 5 minutes max to do. So when you can complete that survey, let us know if these topics were of interest to you, what other topics you'd like to see in the future, if this format was a good format, or what other ideas do you have? We, as a business service team, we're here to meet the needs of our local employers. And unless you tell me what you want, I don't know what needs to meet, right? So just spend a few minutes just to complete that survey, and that would help us out for our next event. So instead of telling you all bye, I will tell you all goodbye for the moment, but please help yourself to snacks, take the time, do some networking, talking, ask the presenters that are here more questions if you have any, and we will be hanging around until about 12:30. So if you have any questions for me or anyone from our business service team, we're here at your disposal. So with that, thank you. Thank you for being part of the Leap Forward event. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Yeah.